Rite of Passage is back and it is better than ever. Starting February 16th this year, you'll get to enter to try and get your chance to make XGS. With just a $50 entry fee, you get direct invite to our round robin stage where it is best of threes for every game, making sure every single chance, every game, every round has the most meaning possible. The best teams in the round robin group stage will make it on to our single elimination playoffs, where they can fight for not only a chance for the lion's share of a $1,000 plus grand prize, but also a chance, a direct invite to the next season of XGS. Signups close February 13th, just 3 days before the event actually starts, so make sure you gather your teammates, friends, and sign up, because this is your chance to make a name in the scene. Are you ready? Find out here.
Just a little bit after we got ourselves off of that break and into another beautiful game.
Yep, it's the second game of tonight. This is TeamSESH versus Karn for our round robin format for Season 8 of XGS. It's going to be a really fun one. Karn came off a win. TeamSESH came off of a loss against the team that we just saw in Unity, where they had a much closer game against Unity than even LFO did. They lost 8-7 on Fortress, which is a good map for Unity, as they've been trying to fit it into their map pool ever since qualifiers really started for Xenon. And now, I mean, Sesh, they looked pretty solid in their opening game, but I think against Karn it's going to be a little bit different.
Yeah, and as we see that roster, Badger, Space, TK, Cirx, and Kicks up pretty nuts in terms of who's on there. It's a pretty veteran roster.
Yeah, Badger has been around the scene for a little bit. Space is also a name that I have heard of for a while. TK2, I think Cirx and Kixar are a little bit newer to me, but this roster seems a little bit well-rounded in terms of like experience, not maybe like in firepower, because that's something that I don't really think I can quantify with Sesh all that much, because I haven't really watched a ton of them. But I hope that like today against Karnico, because of how close their game was against Unity, a team that looks to be like one of the better teams inside of XGS Season 8, I'm hoping that Sesh can maybe have a result that they feel like they would probably deserve, because maybe in their minds against Unity, because of how close that game was, it was 8-7, maybe, just maybe, they felt like they could have won that game.
Yeah, and as I say that, we're getting ourselves into that game. But just before that, we have ourselves a quick little interview with Cirx. Let's check on that.
Yo, my name is Cirx, and I compete for TeamSESH. These are my thoughts on the upcoming season for XGS. One of the goals for this season is just to like really just put ourselves out there and really just try to like show everybody what we got. We've been scrimming like a whole bunch of like good teams, like high tier 2 teams, and we've been getting good results. So we just want to show everybody what we got before CL. The vibes for this team is really like particular. Like it's really weird. Like we take it seriously, but like at the same time, like we all know it's a game. We all know we want to have fun and like just enjoy it, you know? It's like we want to make it like our job. And I mean, at some point you just gotta realize it's just a game. The toughest team in this league probably has to be Alex or Kiru. I don't know why, bro, but Kiru has our card. I don't know. Kiru has our ticket. The easiest team by far was probably Hakiki Mori. They didn't make it, but it was probably Hakiki Mori. That was the easiest. One thing we need to work on this week, like our pacing and stuff like that. We really like we have trouble like, especially on like maps like Cafe. Like we need to just get our pacing right. And then there's really nothing else. Like it's just our pacing. Like sometimes me and Kicks are like slow on the entries, but it don't really matter. At the end of the day, we're the GOATs, so that's true.
And as we get in, we get to see the final looks for the Karn & Co roster. They are Carnage, Toaster, Deity, Zonky, and Raid. Should be a pretty insane roster, and I think there's one big name that currently stands out above the rest in terms of pure killing potential. Raid obviously had himself one of the better times we've seen. The man has had some insane games. I think we're at 17, 15, and 20 now. are some of his official numbers so far. He's been on a heater.
Yeah, the one of the many stats that people keep bringing up with Raid is obviously his entry stats within Six Invitational, but he also had some really good like moments as well during Element 6 where he just looked like such a force to be reckoned with mechanically. Like his aim is something that's like totally underrated, and it even got like some praise even from like some of the tier 1 like pro players at some point. I think even like Super was giving him compliments, which is very hard for Super to do because he's quite critical of everything, which is not a bad thing. That's just how he is. So yeah, Raid is somebody to keep an eye on. DD is one of the more aggressive players that I've ever seen in T2, and I'm just hoping like we get to see more of him tonight because I've seen him so many times in tier 2. So yeah, I'm just excited to watch Karn tonight.
Absolutely. And as we see those maps get themselves on the board, we have ourselves a grand map of Nighthaven Labs. A personal favorite of mine. Some do not enjoy how common it has become, but it's one of my favorites. You know, I feel like when you see a Nighthaven map, you're always happy to see what is more traditional nowadays. It's when you're going to your defaults, when you're seeing what I think is kind of like the new Oregon, you go to Nighthaven.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be totally honest, I'm kind of surprised that for TeamSESH they've left it up in the ban phase this long, because along with Chalet, it's one of their most banned maps ever since the start of 2026. It's been a map that alongside Chalet they've been looking to ban in almost every single one of their games. There's actually no recorded data on Wikipedia of them ever playing Labs this year. I mean, we're still in January, but I mean, I think even before that, they didn't really have that much experience on Labs. Whereas for Karn, Labs is a map that they've gone on before. They've shown that they have a preference for it to some extent. And Labs has kind of become one of the more default maps, which is a map that kind of does favor a team like Karn & Co.
Yeah, and as those bans roll in there, Thermite and Bennett, not a big surprise by any means. I think you expect the electricity and the hard reach to go off. That will say, leaving Maverick as a hard reacher to not be banned is a bit surprising.
Yeah, Ace and Thermite gone, Kaid and Bandit gone as well. I think before, a lot of people keep saying this too, but I think Kaid is one of the more banned operators ever. I think he's probably the most banned operator even in tier 1. Still more banned than Azami, who does see a lot of bans on maps like Border, for example, just because of how good she is for East Stairs. And even to some extent, she's banned a lot on Labs because of how much time waste she can put on the Raptors side because of her keeper barriers and how much cover they provide. You can sit inside of Raptors and block off IT once they open up the IT wall. You can block off the Raptor single window too. And that's going to be a weapon that TeamSESH has available to them in this very first round of Labs.
Yeah, and now you're going to see, I think what is probably one of my favorite sites in general. I really enjoy how it can still have its default moments in terms of how you play second floor, but I think it has its value round and around there. It really has what I think can be a unique spin for each team. You know, there's still enough variety that it's always a fun look at. I think it's always stable enough that it feels like it's a team's baseline. If you want to see how good they are, check their second floor Nighthaven.
Well, second floor Nighthaven Labs, the many things that makes it very potent is like crossfires, but also just how well you're able to hold like the map control around it and how much you're able to waste time. Mainly around Raptors and Blue Stairs, or Water Stairs as people would call it. And if you can't really waste time on Raptors, if you can't do it on Blue Stairs and you just allow the attack to have a ton of map control against you, you have no space to play inside of sight, you have no crossfires to operate with, and that means that you can't really contest for any type of site control. So yeah, that is something that you kind of have to look for. It's all about time waste and teamwork.
Yeah, and already getting quite a bit done on the board there. Carnage, you're going to obviously pick to not have the Maverick. Maybe a couple of good bans. Keeping the Maverick on the board doesn't seem to be an option, or at least when they enjoy Karn and Coast, they're going to bring the more, I think, niche Habana instead. Certainly has a weapon that's still enjoyable. You're going to see, I think, everyone else really stick to what they know. Raid, obviously, maybe on the less passive op here for being what is arguably the best entry for the team, sticking himself on what is the Flores there. Obviously not the gun, maybe, of something like the Commando, like the ARX, or like the Ash R4C. So I'm a little surprised to see him on what is generally more passive op.
Yeah, okay. So this is kind of weird. I'm pretty sure this is because of the my gadgets, but Deity has no more Ash charges left. They're trying to take control over by plants, and the mirror window is still up, which can obviously pose a ton of issues, especially because Team Sesh are actively playing around it. But that's a good pickup from Raid. That's the Azami down, that's Raptors control gathered, and with IT breach open, this is a really good point for Karnico to activate off of.
Yeah, 5v2. This is the aggression we're going to see from them. And I think this is a bit of a showing to what's to come. But for now, it's a clutch, or at least a hopeful one. The Grim's going to go wide. More importantly, all the bodies are going to swing at once. You can do all you wish, try to stop the oncoming assault. But Raid catch double on the round. And more importantly, the last pick there, get a nice 1-0 victory that was kind of all off that aggression, that flash moment. Within just 10 or so seconds, everything collapsed in on them and Karn and Co. They didn't really have any trouble there.
Yeah, and that's kind of like an issue. The fact that like I was talking about it earlier, the importance of rafters for like the second floor and like how important it is to just like waste time. And if you can't waste time, your second best option is to run away from rafters, reinforce off the wall, and just like save your life. But that wasn't even really an option there for Cirx, who was playing on the Azami. Instead, he got caught by Raid. That's that's Raptors control with the IT breached open. It kind of limits the amount of space that you're able to work with TeamSESH. And you can tell from there they're kind of like backed up into a wall. Where can you realistically play with in servers when you don't have control of IT and Raptors no more? The question is none. And so Karn are able to activate off of that. You saw some aggression going into E-Box and then the rest of the push into plants when even though the mirror window was kind of an issue at some points, that was able to activate just off of that early bit of map control. And it kind of just showcases just how good Raid has been on Karnico ever since he joined this team.
Yeah, he really has been a revelation for Carnage and really what his team can do. He's brought that entry power that I think has been lacking sometimes in different eras of Karn and Co. I think obviously a lot of the players, this is a bit of a development for them. If you look at Carnage's team, you realize that a lot of them are going to go into much higher places someday, and a lot of them have. I think that's a show of what Carnage can do with his team. Maybe he's not always going to be the top player every single round, but he's a great developer and a great leader. I think it's a big, value about him that's sometimes understated.
I think a lot of people, especially if you just know ball about Karn or if you've been around like T2 for a while, Karn is like, that's somebody that you can't like talk bad about, at least in my eyes. I can never really think bad things about Karn just because he's been in the scene for so long. He's had so many iterations of Karn & Co. He got his T2 chip a while ago and maybe even had some offers at one point for tier 1, and it's quite deserved. This round, Karn & Co. are going to be doing a second floor to first floor take where they're going to try and like use some of this vertical in order to apply pressure to the roamers and eventually just move them off into maybe some of these cuts that they have established around the map.
Yeah, and just halfway into the round here, lots getting done for Karn & Co. I think they're trying to take a little more slow and steady than we generally know them as. They're trying to play this into, what I was going to say, slow and steady. I was going to say they're going to take their time. They're absolutely not doing that from the side of Raid. He's going to already at least try to capture the mirror window there. Try to make it so they can drop the hatch, but not quite. He's going to run back up, play it safe, reload, regroup, as they still have a Dokubi Call and flashes in hand. And at this point now, with the advantage, they can really afford to take it slow. Everyone's in the sight here. This is Karn & Co.'s game to lose.
Yeah, the one thing that I'm worried about is the flank, and I wonder if Karn & Co. have any drones around the map. Usually you commonly see drones around the 90 hallway. I didn't see anything present. You also usually see a drone inside of lounge, and that's something Karn & Co. have to kind of be worried about this flank, because this is something that Space is going to time at the very last second, right when Karn & Co. want to go for this execute.
Yeah, and everything's going to go out here. Raid now with another double, matching himself in the previous. He's going to likely try to run his way down Cargo, hold himself aggressive. Zonky instead going to find the pick, means that likely a run down for him. Badger doesn't know where, though. Triple kill for Raid, but he'll be taken out, leaving Cirx out to try to clutch the 1v4 here. Really wanting to get something on the board, obviously. You don't want to give too much momentum to a team like Karn & Co. We know once they have it, they can really take it away. Zonky finishes, and more importantly, a huge 2-0 lead to start for Karn & Co.
Yeah, and Browns at least look super well organized for Karn & Co. At second round, good roam clear as well. Didn't really lose anybody when it came to putting themselves, like establishing themselves on cuts, but they didn't really get any kills in the cuts neither. I think the biggest thing was the fact that, at least for Karn & Co., like they just were able to chase down players who weren't really expecting them to chase them down. So like Raid, for example, was able to chase down a player going down forklift hall or forklift stairs. And that was because they were just trying to get back to site and place some of their power positions. Like I'm kind of surprised that like they weren't necessarily aware of that, maybe depending a little bit too much on the footholds, or the fact that maybe thinking that Karnico would give them a ton of respect. There are usually some footholds in between the sites or between control room and the room that's like right behind assembly in that case, and that just was not the case. They just kind of disrespected that space. And like you mentioned, Raid was somebody that I think Karnico needed because he can unlock so much space in this team, mechanically gifted, but also super smart as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you've seen him before, even back to his console days, I think even the best, double shot certainly, I think in talks with them, they've said it was recognizable from the start. What he had in terms of instincts, that just, that half a second micro decision was something that was absurd for his timing. And I think it's continued in, obviously. You've seen a lot of his kills are, yes, good positioning, but I think he's able to react. And more important, I think he's able to change his mind and pivot much faster than a lot of entries currently in the tier 2 space. That really does give him that edge around the rounder. I feel like we're going to consistently see that. But at least to start off here, Zalki's going to hop himself on the commando again, in a bit of a favorite appetite. Already getting the pick on the board, and more importantly, you're losing your Ella, your big roam-up pretty early.
Yeah, that was one of the second floor players up here, so I believe they were most likely going to play either on like the server door. I'm not too sure why you play on the server door without a shotgun, but like maybe play on a server door or even play like somewhere around pillar in order to kind of like have some crossfires to play around for this TeamSESH team who are trying to like play on top floor so they don't give up a ton of vert here against Karnico, but that's not going to be the case. TK goes down. And so now at some point, like when do you want to give up top floor control? Karnico aren't necessarily totally pushing them off of it, but they are opening up the second floor, making it very hard to sit around in.
I will say TK on a bit of a down spell, certainly from his previous game. 16 is what he ended with in that game versus Unity. So obviously watch what he can do. A bit of a redemption arc might be in the cards. Still a little bit to do before then. We still have a lot of game to play, so don't worry about the momentum quite yet. Even if it's in Karnico's current favor, things can shift, and I've seen it be done many times, but Carnage wants to keep that direction in the same one it's been moving. Karnico dominance looks to obviously continue with the 2-player advantage, made into 1, brought back to 2 by Deity. It seems all the bodies are upstairs, and while it might not be the expected point for a lot of these fights, a bit of a proxy war up here, and finishes off as well. Deity gets it. Another round for Karnico as they continue to just keep dominating these mid rounds.
Yeah, and I think for TeamSESH, maybe some issues that they're having is like, at least that round there, they didn't really like want to give up top floor control, but I think at some point you just kind of have to, even if that means like you're exposing vert to like the side, even if it is a win condition. At that point, you're kind of like losing a ton of bodies, you're bleeding it too much, and maybe you just need a plan to like retake that space later instead of like losing a ton of bodies now. Maybe retaking space when Karnico aren't necessarily too focused on you, and they're focusing on the execute instead, and maybe you can power on top floor when they leave not that many people up top, but it kind of felt like they're just like very slow to recognize that, and it kind of makes sense that at this point, usually happens when teams go down 0-3. They do take a tactical timeout just to figure out what exactly is going wrong.
Yeah, and this is, once again, the round after this here is most important, I think, arguably in the entirety of the half, and you could argue in the entirety of the game. Obviously, it hasn't all played out, but these sort of rounds where you can shift the momentum is huge for a team. We've seen these rounds obviously entirely change the story of games, change the story of how the players are doing, and how you can have such a good recovery off of these. And a team like TeamSESH, I think, is built for it. I think obviously the team is really well run in the IGLing. I think they're just running into a case here where they're well run. They're a good IGL team. It feels like they're fluid and refined in their game. Problem is they're running into arguably one of the best entries we've seen in a long time in Tier 2, and specifically on Karn & Co. And arguably one of the greatest IGL's hard supports in the entirety of Tier 2 and Carnage.
Yeah, and all of the pieces around Karnico are also like doing really well. Deity's having a solid game, so is Zonky. Toaster did get his very first kill in that last round, and I don't think people really talk about Toaster that much. He's like a pretty solid flex player that came in from Space Shoes roster that did end up knocking down that the X Alix roster that was favored to win Element 6 before it even began. And I don't think it was him that was one of the main reasons why Shubes did so well, but he was still a very good addition to the team anyways. And he was a really good piece in their run in Element 6, even though like soon after that they disbanded. I think it was like Shmeek who's like super duper good and like threatening against almost any team that he played against. Toaster is really good. I like him a lot as a player, and I think he's a really good addition to this team alongside like even Zaki who joined during Element 6 as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think a team like Karn & Co., it's been around so long, we've seen so many eras. But this is certainly getting up there for the highest potential, I think, in terms of what it could be. It feels like we've seen those flashes sometimes. Every single player on here, Karn & Co. still certainly the IGL he needs to be for this team to go far. So it's always going to be a threat if you see Karn & Co., maybe despite the loss there early. They can easily pivot back, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do. Now they're going to have to make sure it's done cleanly here, as with just a minute in, not a lot quite done. You're getting the basics, the prep, if you will. You know, your drones are coming in, the floor is getting the job done, but it's that slow, grindy phase is I think where TeamSESH can maybe find a pick from an unsuspecting Karn.
Oh, he didn't see it. The light was flashing. He doesn't see it. Plant wall is open as well. Deity's found himself in a really good spot. But I mean, if he goes into this electrical area, he might just get shotgunned out. But no, TK's not paying attention. Kicks does get a kill earlier to make it into an even scoreline. I mean, until Zerx does himself. But Deity just gets 2 there after walking in. And that's a pretty solid start from Karn & Co. But I mean, they didn't really gain any space off of that.
Yeah, I mean, getting picks is good and all, but I think losing your Nomad here is going to hurt. You know, a lot of them weren't established yet. You had some of them down, but they're not all there. So a lot of utility is still in the board. Obviously, those flashes could have done wonders if kept in the, kept in check, especially for that more post-man late game scenario. Now you're going to have to see them pivot without them. No flashes anymore besides the side of a raid, so 2 to at least work with, but certainly not more than what would have been. Can you pick it up here? Can you find yourself and improvise, more importantly? But as I say that, Space hides in the corner, gets rid of Toaster. That'll get the advantage rolling back for TeamSESH here. A huge round once again. The timeout can do wonders, and this is a good chance to prove that. Badger finds Raid, and with one person alive, Carnage is not going to do it. We're going to get finally TeamSESH some life into the game, some life into the round, and they're first.
Yeah, and that double kill inside of electrical, that was the only space that Karn & Co. really gained. They also didn't seem to have like a ton of information in that round neither, because like the last 3 players alive essentially didn't really look at the people that were like that actually ended up killing them. Like Raid inside of like top water wasn't able to really get his kill into the server player just because he wasn't looking at him. Kind of points to me that there was like really no information in that round there for Karn & Co. And I guess the big point is that, yeah, I mean, it felt like, at least for Aditi, he was like the only one in there and he had like no backup. And that was like the only round that I've seen from Karn & Co. where that type of mistake's been made, because otherwise they've formed a pretty good pack mentality. Like one player gets in there and maybe they get a 2K and they die. There's another Karn & Co. player right behind them to make sure that they're able to get a trade and still retain some sort of control, but that wasn't really established in that round.
Yeah, and this is the recovery point here, possibly, for TeamSESH. You get 2 here, that is already at least a workable half. Is it great? No. The 3-3 still isn't even what they'd argue they'd want. They want that 4-2, and that's, I think, what they'd expect from themselves. So, with the timeout, they at least can try to salvage this piece. Duct tape. It was a bit of a shaky start, but you can obviously still see Karn & Co. get on the board, still see them find some level of momentum here. Because all they need is just 1 round to guarantee themselves the advantageous half, which is absolutely what they would love to see. Karn & Co., I mean, if you can get a 4-2 half rolling on the worst side for you, that'd be probably the greatest thing you could ask for.
Oof. Toaster found an opening pick that's on one of the roamers that exist here for TeamSESH, and I believe because Zerx is on the visual, he most likely was playing somewhere on the second floor, or at least had some presence upstairs. either way, that means that like there's really no presence on top floor. This is like free for the taking for Cardico. They could take the top floor, and with the vert potential that they have between these breaching charges and the buck shotgun, that means that now you can like use a lot of this vert against the solos, for example. And because there's a lack of nitro souls present in the lineup here from TeamSESH, you can't really counter it. You just have to like shoot up at the vert if you still want to contest for first floor control. But it looks like they're already backing off anyways.
I mean, you know, you're just around halfway in, so maybe a little bit early, but still perfectly fine. These castles can buy a little bit more time, obviously, so it's not any big deal quite yet. However,
Yeah.
being down a body certainly doesn't put you in the situation you maybe prefer, but TK and Badger are both playing around this cargo stairs, if you will. Both of them maybe looking to see is there a pick they can find there. There's something to be done, but they have to once again just maybe play it back here. Let the time keep flowing down here, as I think maybe a little bit over checking here so far from the side of Karn and Co. I think they've tried to make sure it's perfectly clear, which is good, but in a case like this where there's not another pick to be found, where they've entirely retreated, it's becoming an issue now, and Badger as well is still kind of playing a lurking position there, obviously more towards the exo side. They have a lot of bodies still waiting if they decide to go there.
Yeah, and the thing here again, Space is still on the flank around the first floor, like how he was the last time that they played basement. And he's just here as like a late round piece. He's also being joined by Kicks. This is something a little bit new for TeamSESH. You know, now they're developing a pack mentality, and I wonder if that's what they talked about in that timeout that they had when they went down 0-3. What?
I'm okay, sorry, I was not expecting that. I don't think anyone was for that
Yeah.
matter. But a pick is a pick nonetheless. Space gets rid of Raid, so at least a lot of the aggression may be gone, but still a strong team here. DD has been on a wonder streak. Zonky will at least follow up, making it a two-player advantage. This should give that gap you want to work with made even larger by Carnage, that hard support player. Space now upstairs can do a lot here, and still maybe bring it together. I mean, we've seen clutches aplenty, but it's always going to be a hard one here. It's always going to be perfection in the spacing. But I think he's taking a little bit too long upstairs, maybe. Even if you find the pick, there's just not going to be enough time, I think, to walk yourself all the way down now here. You can take all the picks you want, but I think a little bit too passive maybe from Sesh. And while a good round, an improvement, it still isn't what they need. Now at least get a 4-half going for this side of card.
Yeah, round gets converted here. And I think, like, at least for me, from what I'm seeing as well from TeamSESH, a lot of these rounds just maybe seem a little bit, like, too readable in what they're trying to do. Like, the mid-round aggression from Cafeteria and also from Vending Stairs, that's a move that teams commonly pull, especially when they give up map control, like how you highlighted it was at a minute and 30. That probably just seems like a little bit too soon from TeamSESH. I think Karn and Co knew that. And so at some point, you know, you have to expect some mid-round aggression for top floor, especially when like the attacking team is making vert against you. That was something that Karn and Co expected. That's why DD was in that really weird spot, prone on the car outside, just outside the cargo single door leading into lounge, and he just caught like one of the roamers outside. And the last time that they played that bomb site before that round even began, it was like round 2, I believe, from TeamSESH. They did that same flank last time with Space, and that got caught out too. So a lot of these rounds maybe just seem a little bit too readable here for Karnico.
It may be so, but I mean, at the end of the day, they're still winning. Is it the prettiest? No. Is it being called, like, are they seeing the issues from TeamSESH? Yes, I think after that timeout, they are really seeing what the flaw was. They just couldn't pull it out in that round. But a win is a win here. You're still getting the advantageous half on the worst side for Karn.
No.
I mean, it's going to be a hard fight backwards. But I will say, TK and Raid have both slowed themselves down. TK hasn't quite found the momentum he's wished for. You know, sometimes you'll really see players start off a little bit weak there. But, I mean, we saw the dude drop 16, so I wouldn't count anyone out quite yet. He did a lot of it on the shotgun, so maybe this will be the time, but apparently not, as Raid will take advantage. He'll be the one to heat right back up. After a couple of really strong rounds, took a bit of a break in between, but he's back for more, getting that 8-3 stat line, maybe trying to tag up and beat his previous 17 kills. But it's going to be a hard bar to beat.
Yeah, and Space kind of feels like he can't really give up too much map control. If he drops off and they take like IT, they take the rest of servers, and also CC, that's like full vert control in favor of Karnico with this man advantage. When you're in a 5v3 like this, you still have to contest for some form of map control. Badger's gonna make it a little bit easier. He kills Zonky with the C4 from down below. And Space is still up here, but they know about his position. That's a good clear from Karn and Co. And they've just cleared the only other player that was top 4, forcing Cirques in a really tough spot. And he's thinking, I look like he was thinking about leaving, but he has another mirror window to play off of.
I mean, the multiple mirror windows up here should help a little bit, but it's always going to be a time factor here, I think, because if you play this aggressive and you get it to a 1v3, it is such a hard fight to win with Raid being such a great player in those one-on-ones. So now you're going to have to make moves elsewhere, and Badger certainly will. Now, a triple kill for him on the round. Been a certainly stronger showing in just this round than a lot of the match so far. So it's going to be a nice pickup here. More importantly, a tie-up taken right back by Carnage. The IGL goes aggressive. Toaster as well, still on the board. I think you run into a little bit of an issue is Cirxow finds Carnage, but the problem is both these players are generally more passive. So now you're going to see maybe a battle of wits here, a battle of baiting, as neither of these ones are always going to be about the mechanical skill. I think 95% of their value is in that more intellectual thinking. So now it's all about that post plant. What can they do? It seems like Toaster is going to be able to sneak it off, get a post plant going without anyone knowing.
Yep, and he's going to just jump out the window. This is probably the one of the easier post plants you can do as the attacker in a 1v1.
I mean, you gotta run out and chase it. I don't think they have a Claymore there, but if he has a Nomad, it's likely over. But you can still try to bait it, maybe. Cirques out, not gonna be an easy bait by any means. He's gonna have to play this pretty perfectly, because this swing is miserable at best. But goes wide, neither pick found. Finally, Toaster gets it, getting it done. It took a second there. Pick nonetheless, even if it gives a little bit of spook. More importantly, Karn and Co up a huge number now, 5-1. Is this 2 halves in a row? We've seen 5-1.
Yeah, actually, because the last game was also 5-1 half from Unity's attack. And okay, it's another 5-1 attack half, I guess. And this time it's on Labs, which is kind of maybe on Chalet we can excuse it because Chalet can be quite attacker sided, but on Labs is kind of crazy. And it kind of goes back to the point. I feel like a lot of these rounds were like super easy to read for Karn and Co. At least super like TeamSESH kind of being like really easy to read on some of their defenses. It just seems like Karn and Co knew exactly what they were going to do at what exact timings. That's why we saw like a lot of like aggressive moves at certain points in the early round from either Deity or even like Raid in that last round of the Ash when he just like rushed into like electrical and killed 2 people. And just got like a ton of space on top floor and made like some of the decision makings from like TeamSESH in that round like seemed like super difficult because they were super difficult. And now Karn and Co defense 5-1 up on Labs. That's pretty good for them. They tend to favor that defensive side. I think they'll eat this up.
Yeah, I mean, now it's to see what can you try to, because it's going to be a hard fight back. You've already used your timeout. Carnage is not a general in most of these situations, especially specifically in this lower T3 to higher T3 to lower T2 level. It feels like he is one of the most iron cold, IGLs. He doesn't really break under pressure. Obviously, LCQ is a little bit different against T1 games, but I mean, for most part, he is nearly unstoppable in that, which is going to make this a hard comeback by any means, but we've seen it before. There's still a way to get it done, even if it's looking unlikely. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, TeamSESH showed some sort of resilience against like Unity, which takes a lot because like the whole thing with Unity is they like to talk trash throughout the whole entire game, especially when they slammed you. We've seen that last night when they played against Unity. We've seen that when Unity played against X-Alix or LFO now. And so you kind of need some mental resilience to pull yourself in that game and make it as close as it was. You gotta have some of that. So at least like you need some of that to at least come back. This seems like a pretty typical attack. They're gonna just open up IT. They're applying pressure over towards the plant side of the map. We haven't really seen much dedication from the attack to attack towards like blue, and that's okay. It's pretty typical.
But a first pick entry going the way, and Zonky goes dead. At least his utilities placed down for Karn and Co. There's not a lot you lost in terms of pure utility usage. I mean, the C4 would have done wonders, but it's whatever. You can still live it. But you are going to have to worry a lot about the angles that will come, maybe, from this now, obviously, more connector side. It's pretty much every single body in Sesh is lined up and waiting to run in there.
Yeah, to get the opening pick, Toaster finds a kill back. That's actually onto TK. The attack at the moment just seems a little bit one-dimensional, and there's nobody on the electrical door to even really catch this kill, but he goes back! Toaster dies, Karn dies too, and electrical, and that's 2 from Kicks to confirm it.
Correct. But I will say it's Raid and DD alive. These are the 2 players that have gone nuts. But as I say that, Raid goes down, leaving DD in the impossible situation here to clutch up when it looks improbable. But Cirque's out from behind will get it done. TeamSESH at least start off the round. More importantly, they're half strong as they can. Because this is going to be a long way back.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we didn't really see a lot from Karn on their attack, maybe something that TeamSESH looked to abuse. Even though the whole push kind of looked a little bit one-dimensional, they weren't really going for like a Raptors play at the same time that they were going for a connector take, or they weren't going for like a Blue Waters take. I think that was going to be a late piece added in from the demos down below from Cirques on TeamSESH. But they just made use of the vertical play. That's one way that you can like make it so that like the crossfires on top floor aren't as potent as they usually are whenever you see a defense play that site, is use vertical like with Deimos or Buck. And that's kind of like what made it like really improbable for TeamSESH, or not TeamSESH, made it really, really bad for Karn to play that site. So you saw a lot of aggressive like mid-round powers as well from them, where it just didn't really succeed because TeamSESH had covered with the Nomads, and they were totally prepared for it because of the Nomads giving them that alert.
10 seconds to go.
I mean, yeah, it's gonna be a hard climb back.
5 seconds remaining.
But there's still hope. You still seen these before, but it's gonna rely a lot on we're gonna have to see DD in this raid shut down here in these next couple of rounds, and it can happen. We've seen it before, obviously. Even Raid at some moments has had it where he'll shut down sometimes, even if it's mental, if it's just he gets out of his rhythm. It can happen. So there's at least some documented timing where this can happen. You can find a way maybe to shut down that star player and really start working and grinding in here, because you just got to go round by round at this point. It's not going to be an easy way home. It's not going to be even likely that you go to overtime. You got to realize as an IGL, you got to think as TeamSESH, even if it isn't likely, we got to put everything we have into this and just try.
Yeah. And they are still trying. That was like a really good attacking round too. So, and I think when they went onto the attack for Fortress against Unity, it did get like a lot better. And that's a map that attackers statistically have had like issues trying to figure things out on. Toaster though, and Zonky double up to find a kill. And that's a 5v3 immediately found for Karn on this extension up top. And TeamSESH, they're just having a lot of trouble getting map control. That's the vert actually down too, because Ram is dead.
This is gonna get tough. And it's looking more and more. I hope not, because it'd be a little funny, but also I wish for a little bit more siege. That we find 2 7-2s in a row with both the winning sides having a 5-1 attack. Yeah. Would that be ridiculous? Maybe. Is it possible? Honestly, it's looking like so.
It's always nice to get like, I'll be totally honest, I always like the dominant games because you see a ton of good stuff from the team that's winning. We saw a lot of good things from Unity. We've seen a lot of good things from Karn. And I'll be totally honest, like seeing this version of Karn is like so refreshing for me. And they have a lot of win conditions actually in this round too. Like, it looks like for TeamSESH, they're trying to go for like a typical take where they're going to take EXO and then try and like plant here. You have a lot of far off angles and a ton of nitro cells that Karn still have not used. They can sit here and deny the plant.
Yeah, I mean, you can hurl them out wide, but this angle here from Badger might cause a little bit of issue, a little bit of discourse within the group. Still possible, and I will say Toaster, he's entirely upstairs. If they really wanted to, he could flank behind and cause absolute chaos within the team. There's a little bit of time before that, though, but TK gets one. The Blackbeard is spotted, but not anything you can really do here. C4 goes wide, isn't shot out, but Cirque's out isn't dead. Instead, he's just on the grip of life, but he still has a chance here. He still can move on. Badger finding Zonky should help significantly. Now it's down to the 2v3 here. What can Deity find in a situation as important as this? C4 goes wide, maybe a little bit misplaced. A down onto Blackbeard will do wonders. TK goes to the post plant. It's looking like he's going to have to do in a 1v2, finished by Deity. Huge round for him, and more importantly, a Karn match point.
Yeah, and I think once the IQ went down from TeamSESH, they were actually playing in the I can't remember what that room is where the mirror is usually sitting, with the mirror window facing the assembly wall. But they were there holding the cross onto the onto the Animus player. And once they went down, you ideally had no cover for the player trying to get a plant down in the default plant spot of assembly. And also your cargo stairs player is like pinned down only by one player because they haven't killed Toaster yet, who's retaking down cargo stairs. So like late round situation there from TeamSESH got a lot more complicated. And as it should, because to be fair, Karn and Co, they were entering into crunch time. They had a ton of late round win conditions. And for it to kind of get that close, but them only able to win it because
Attackers have located a bomb.
it got too low on time and Blackbeard had no choice but to stick the plant because their cover died. It kind of goes a little bit crazy, but they still get to match point anyways, which is the good part. Is the fact that the last two players alive, Toaster and Deity, didn't really make too much trouble of it. It's not like the plant totally went confirmed for them. They were able to stop it in time.
Yeah, now the do or die for Karn and Co, or excuse me, for TeamSESH. I think it's anything but do or die for Karn and Co currently. 4-round gap. I mean, they're about as perfect as you could ask for realistically. Could you obviously be in a 6-0? Sure. Is it going to happen anytime soon in I think an event as prestigious as this? No. Even if it's a dominant win, you're still going to sometimes have rounds where you fail. This is realistically the best possible scenario. And one we just saw, where we're getting very, very close to seeing the exact same thing with different teams twice. I hope not. A little part of me wants to see a little bit of difference, but a part of me is really excited. This is, as you mentioned, this is where you see the highlight reels. This is where you see the true, like, what makes a team good. We saw it from Unity there, the aggression early on in their game. How they're able to really just continue taking space and just winning those ones was their signature style. Karn and Co, it feels like they have some refinement in them. They still have a really solid site setup, but then they have a little bit of that spicy mix with Raid in there. Deity as well, both of them continuing to be these, it feels like the yin and yang to this team and what has been constant aggression from those two, backed up by a much, much better backline than I think anyone expected today.
Yep, and I think for Karn and Co, this is like a really good statement win for them. It's to show you that to take just this new roster, this new-ish roster a little bit more seriously. Raid, Deity, and Zonky, and Karn have been on the team for a little bit. Toaster's the newer addition, I believe, for Eli, who stepped out for a different team. Sarks is going to get the opening pick that's on to Deity, and he actually takes vert control off of that. So it's going to make a lot of these positions inside of the site, specifically like Toaster's position or even anybody playing on the pillar, a lot harder, which removes some really good power spots on that server site.
It seems like SESH are doing everything they can to change the fate of a 7-2. And they're at least going to have a hard way to do it, though. Let's not act like Raid can't go big here. Looking to find the Nomad, but can't quite be done. Intel on him as well. But he still runs across. The man has absolutely, I guess, zero nerve. This man is nuts at doing it. He just refuses to be scared, and I kind of respect it. Raid's also going to find TK, as the aggression will never stop from him. Space, though, is at least coming around, maybe making himself known. Zonky getting a pick. Toaster as well, as you ramp up into the 3v2 here. It feels like fate might be unchanged today. Still a chance for Badger and Space to bring it together. It's all going to rely on these next couple of picks here. Just 30 seconds, you got to bring everything together. You don't have the utility you want. You have no flashes and a couple of Capital smokes and fires. Everything can go perfect here. Everything can go right if you play your numbers. You play your intel there. Vision as well thrown out, but more of a bait from Zonky, seeing if you can get an aggressive fire. Looking to try to find Raid. He's low, but not quite the pick. As you still wait for 10 seconds, they're forced to run themselves in. But Space finds one, keeps the dream alive. But a run in here from Space could do wonders. Badger with another. Raid now in the 1v1, but he gets shot out by the leg. TeamSESH keep it alive, and more importantly, change their fate. It is not going to be 2-7-2 in a round.
That's like 1 second off from TeamSESH actually losing that round. And they make it a lot closer, too, because of that. Like, Space going nuclear with, I believe it was a 4K in the round. He opened up on Karn & Co. Or was that it was probably Cirx. It was one of them. One of them got like the early pick for TeamSESH in that round. Either way, Space had like a very good round there, getting a 4K, and also like just going off in the last few seconds of that round to actually fully save it for TeamSESH. You kind of think like, oh, what would have happened if he didn't get the multi-kill? Obviously, in that case, Karn & Co would have probably went out on time again here against TeamSESH, who seemed to be struggling maybe a little bit with the clock.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a little bit of an issue here, but I mean, maybe you can course correct here. Obviously, you have a little bit of time
Yeah.
for TeamSESH to fix any flaws. So,
Attackers have located a bomb.
you know, if the momentum can continue like this, you're at least going to have to consider a Karnico timeout, which I don't think Carnage wants to do, because one, it's an admission that this is a real issue now. This is a real fight they're putting up to come back. And more importantly, I think it gives a lot of validation to TeamSESH as a team is, you know, a comeback is never easy. No one's going to tell you it is. But if you can get a timeout from the other team, it's the admission that you have something here, that they're scared of you to some degree, and you're on the right track.
5 seconds remaining. Attackers are moving to defuse a bomb.
Now for TeamSESH, it's kind of been the difficult part of at least getting some rounds on the board. It's not another 7-2, which maybe some people wouldn't like. I wouldn't really mind it, but like, for at least Sesh, it kind of, I guess, makes this look a little bit better. Because like, again, their game against Unity was so close, and the fact that it got so bad here against Karnico kind of brings me back to a point that I made about the maps. Like, TeamSESH don't play labs a ton. They haven't played it in 2026 so far, and they've been banning it for almost all of their games. And they bring it out against Karnico, one of the better teams in Tier 2 NA on labs. So that's kind of crazy to think about. But I mean, if they can pull it off, it'd be a really good win, or a really good, you know, not win, but if they can, it would be pretty cool to do so.
Yeah, and I think it'll also be a big showing that maybe make teams a little more worried about banning with TeamSESH is if one of their least played maps here wasn't in fact a weakness, it was in fact a strength. They hid from everyone. Suddenly every single game is landmines. But as I say, that rate at least finds TK. Gets the ball rolling for Karn and Co. They want to try to get this at least going in the right direction. Obviously, you want to try to get this in regulation. Don't want to make this longer than it is. Sarkcell might find Carnage, but Deity gets bodies on the board. Now you're at a 4v3. Karn and Co. still chucking C4s, still trying to find something. Zonky with the Vector is going to do instead is they both stand hand in hand with their weapons. Deity going to make it 1v4 now. We need miracles from Sarkcell, the person we just saw in that interview, the person who has talked so much about how important it is for him to try to win these, how important it is to try to go pro someday. Need to go big here to do it, but two will found. Suddenly there's a real chance here. This is no longer a tiny, minuscule chance. There's a real shot they have this one.
Yeah, he's gonna put himself in a really soft or a really solid plant spot. You can't nitro cell this. Not that Karnico have any anyway, so they have to time them quite well. I think Deity and Zonky are quite close together, and they're approaching him from different sides.
Now it's the cross to be held. You gotta be perfect still. Finding one would be huge, but you turn around too fast. Your mistake is absolutely capitalized on it. Well, you might have had something special. Well, you might have had a chance there for an overtime. Gonna end with just one turn of the shield. You're gonna save your dream if you're Karn and Co. 7-3. Two really insane games now.
Yeah, and I mean, great try from Zerx. The end of that round too. He did. I thought he played the shield quite well. At least when he was like proning on his back, he kind of covered his back right when the Karnico were trying to like choke him in. But you know, he got up, and then his like side was exposed when he turned a little bit to the left. So for that, I mean, Karnico, really good win for them. Their attacking half was really, really good. A lot of good opening moves made from both Raid and Deity, who both, I think, finished on the same amount of kills, or at least the last time I saw it was like 12 kills for each. They were both on double digits either way. And it kind of shows you like some really good signs for Karn and Co. because, yeah, seeing them both be activated, knowing how much of a monster Raid is and knowing how much of a monster Deity can be, some really good signs early on in Season 8 for Karn and Co.
Absolutely. And I mean, in terms of a win you need here, I think this is absolutely one of them. It was obviously a close match one there in your first Playday, but to come back like this, to have that dominant win against TeamSESH is absolutely that pickup for the mental, that pickup for the team that shows you're still a dominant team, even if you maybe didn't start how you wanted.
Yep, and with that, I think that's going to be the end for us. You will have a couple of other games later on today, 2 more BO1s in XGS Season 8. We'll see you guys in a little bit.
Rite of Passage is back and it is better than ever. Starting February 16th this year, you'll get to enter to try and get your chance to make XGS. With just a $50 entry fee, you get direct invite to our round robin stage where it is best of threes for every game, making sure every single chance, every game, every round has the most meaning possible. The best teams in the round robin group stage will make it on to our single elimination playoffs where they can fight for not only a chance for the lion's share of a $1,000 plus grand prize, but also a chance, a direct invite to the next season of XGS. Signups close February 13th, just 3 days before the event actually starts, so make sure you gather your teammates, friends, and sign up because this is your chance to make a name in the scene. Are you ready? Find out here.